Want to win one of 10 iPads or up to $10,000? It's the 25th anniversary of .com, so tell us how .com has changed your life. Write your story at howdoyou.com and you could win.
Hi, I'm Jay Goldman, and you are watching the first ever episode of Status Update, our new show on Butterscotch where we explore the world of social media. I hope a whole bunch of you have followed us over from our old show, Mr. Mobile, where we used to talk about mobile stuff, and are joining us here as we dig down into the well of everything that's happening in the social media world. Now, normally on the show, we're going to be covering things at a pretty low level. We're going to be really getting into the nitty-gritty and digging into stuff. But today we want to get a little bit of the basics out of the way. So we're going to start off with a pretty high-level what is Twitter kind of episode. If you're already an old hand at this and you've been tweeting for years now, you probably want to come back in the next episode where we're going to talk about some of the lower-level stuff. But for those of you who are feeling a little bit lost here, you just kind of had email down and then Facebook came along and maybe a little bit of MySpace and you're sort of trying to keep up and now there's this Twitter thing, well, today's episode is for you. Twitter is microblogging, or very small format blog posts, and they're limited to 140 characters long because that's how many characters fit into a text message or an SMS message on a phone. When Twitter first started out, it was much more SMS-based than it is these days. Nowadays, most people access it either through the web or through a Twitter client on their smartphone of choice, but in the early days, a lot of people interacted mostly through text messaging. And so the tweets had to be small enough that they were going to fit into an SMS, and now we're stuck with the 140 character limit. In the early days of Twitter, that was probably less limiting because really what people were doing was using it really as a status update. So they were answering the question, what are you doing? And the first official t-shirts that actually came from Twitter itself said wearing my Twitter t-shirt on it, which was kind of an inside joke because that's what you would have posted on Twitter if you were doing it right then, and that's very funny. Now it's evolved into a fire hose of conversation, and so the limit is becoming a little bit trickier now because you're trying to work links into it and you're retweeting people and all that kind of stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But the text character limit has become a little bit trickier because we've moved from answering the question, what are you doing, to what's happening. And it's become a fire hose of conversation about what you're doing and thinking and watching and consuming, and all of that stuff still has to fit into that same 140 characters. And Twitter is really all about who you follow and who follows you. And you can think of that as a subscription model. If you're used to the Facebook model where you friend somebody and then they have to authorize you to friend them, that's what we call a synchronous friending model because you both have to agree that the relationship's there and it exists. Twitter's an asynchronous friending model, which means if I follow somebody, they don't have to follow me back and I can still see all of their updates as long as they haven't made them private. Now, what you see on the main screen when you log into twitter.com are the tweets that are coming in from all of the people that you're following or have subscribed to. And you can see if you follow a lot of people, and I'm following about 1,300 right now, that those tweets pile up pretty quickly. So since the last time I loaded this page, there are actually 74 new tweets, and you can see that at the top in the blue bar. And I can reload the page or click on that to see what those new tweets are. The exception to everybody seeing what you're saying if they're following you is direct messages. And that's sort of a whispered conversation between you and somebody else. If you think of Twitter in general as a loud conversation or at a party or something, a direct message is more like you're saying something directly to one person. You have to have a following relationship with that person. So they have to be following you in order for you to DM them. Otherwise, you can't send them a message. And the great thing about that is it really cuts down on spam. They have to basically have followed you and said, I give you permission to talk to me in order for you to send them a direct message. Now, follower stats have become kind of the big thing about Twitter, and a lot of people spend a lot of focus on that. We're going to dig into this later on about what you should use Twitter for and why you should try and build out your followers depending on sort of your use cases. But you can see your followers are in your profile in the right sidebar. So right now I've got about 5,700 followers, and there are a whole bunch of things you can do to kind of up the number or down the number. I would encourage you to probably not focus on that. You want to just think about Twitter as having a conversation that's meaningful to you, and so that's really where you should be putting your time and energy into. The followers will come if that's what you're trying to do. We've done a great tutorial series on Butterscotch. You can look it up on the website, butterscotch.com, which will take you through all of the basics of Twittering, like signing up and all that sort of thing. So I'm not going to get into those details right now. But I would love to see you on Twitter. You can find me. I'm at Jay Goldman. And if you're looking for other people to follow, one great resource that we'd like to throw out there, you can probably find a link to it on the show notes on butterscotch.com, is called wefollow.com. It was started by Kevin Rose, who was the founder of Digg, so you may be familiar with his work at Digg. And wefollow is a directory that he built of people that you can follow, and you can look up different topics and find people who are tweeting about it and then go and follow them and fill your feed up with lots of good stuff. I'm Jay Goldman. This has been the first episode of Status Update. Thanks for watching. It's been a real pleasure, and we hope to catch you next time. But before you go, Just wanted to let you know that this is the 25th anniversary of the .com. And so we're actually doing a cool little contest, which you can enter by going to howdoyou.com. That's howdoyou.com. And if you submit an essay or video there, you got a chance to win one of 10 iPads or cash up to $10,000. I remember registering the jgoldman.com was kind of a big turning point for me. I sort of started down the path of saying, you know what, it's time for me to have a real presence online where I can represent myself. And so I went out there to look, and somebody actually had jgoldman.com. And so I actually purchased it for $400, which is a pretty high number to pay for a single domain name, but it had obviously some pretty important meaning to me. And it's now home to a lot of the things that I do online. So check it out, jgoldman.com, or go to howdoyou.com and enter your chance to win an iPad or cash up to $10,000. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.